Welcome to the Sean Trey Show. Today I have a really awesome guest with me today. Now, would you like to introduce people? Introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do.
My name is Sam Phelps. I'm a Brooklyn-based singer-songwriter from Pulaski County, Kentucky.
Perfect. Now, how long have you? How did you get into music? Let's take it back, man. How did you get started in your musical journey?
Wow, man. I'm gonna say mostly my father. He wasn't a musician himself, but he was always a huge music fan, and he would always emphasize certain things. Like if you're listening to music, he would always like emphasize, listen to certain parts, listen to this. Like if there's a guitar solo going on, listen to the trail off of the solo, listen to the last few notes of the solo, even after the singers came back in or whatever. It's like listening to certain little details and really picking it out. And I remember being young and really loving that. Like back when they used to do outros and songs and let the guy like go off at the end. The ad libs and everything. That stuff always, that stuff always interested me the most. And of course, where I grew up, there wasn't in Pulaski County, Kentucky. There wasn't really a music scene. It's the Bible Belt, dry county, no bars, no venues really. There was some bluegrass stuff, but I didn't really get to participate in a lot of it. Definitely didn't play any of it, like playing bands or stuff. I thought that stuff, well, it still is so far in my head, I can't really do it. But I just it wasn't really an option for me to be in bands and stuff, but I always just sat in my room and played. By the time I got my first guitar when I was like 13, but I didn't really start playing it until I was 15. But it took over once I actually put a little bit of time into it. It took over. Quit sports, baseball, all that stuff. It was all guitar all the time.
And it was interesting because when I messaged you about coming on the show, people have different responses, and there's a lot of different responses that I get. Some people are like, thank you, that sounds awesome, that sounds fun. But one of the lines that you said in your message back to me really was like, spoke to me. You said, how did you hear about my music? Because my music is everything to me. And I was just like, hell yeah, man. That's such a powerful statement. And tell me about that some more, because I've been waiting to ask you about that.
I stand behind it. That statement. Like I said, when it really, at 15 years old, when I've actually put time into the guitar, I quit everything. So there was a kid randomly on the school bus, 2 kids. There was one kid who played bass guitar, and he showed me how to read tablature. So I would like go with my dad to the grocery store and get like the Guitar World magazines. They would have like a couple songs tabbed in the back, and I would start learn how to do those. Yeah, and I would just learn that way, and it just, I don't know, man. It just it became everything. The moment I grew up my father ran a business, an excavating business. So whenever that was the only thing that would like get you out of work. You would get a little time off and play guitar. He would leave you alone if you're playing music a little bit. And any moment that I wasn't working or my father raised me and my brothers, I would, we went to work and you came home and you did the house chores. You'd wash dishes, you do laundry, change little brother's diapers, all that stuff. And it was my escape from everything at an early age, in those ages. And when you're that age, you're going through so much internally, changing at 15, 16 years old, emotionally and stuff. It became the biggest escape, and it became the most important thing, and it still is. It's never altered. I've really started to act on it the most the last few years, but it's always been the biggest part of my life for sure.
That's awesome. Now, was there ever an epiphany moment, like one of those moments where you're like an aha moment, or a song that you heard that was just something that you're like, this right here is special? Or was it just kind of a gradual process as you fell in love with it?
More gradual, but when people say that, I remember when I was really little, I have relatives that would say, it was a couple Willie Nelson songs. Like I remember wearing it out I won't tell you how I played it, but because I don't want to give my age away. But I would wear this out. This album, Willie Nelson's and Merle Haggard's Poncho and Lefty. I wore that out, but that wasn't really the
Nice.
moment. The moment was Steve Earle's Billy Austin. Hearing that, and you can hear a pin drop on that album, on that track, between the lines of the verses, between the lines of the verse, and it just shook me, man. I mean, made me feel like, it makes you feel the emotion, every bit of it. And later on with him with that song, Goodbye, on the Train of Coming album. So I would say mainly the most like shaking
Yeah.
me stuff, singer-songwriter wise, would be Steve Earle stuff. Probably Goodbye, and first and foremost would have been Billy Austin. I remember hearing that as a kid and just like haunting.
That's awesome, man. Now, you now are in New York. Now, how is there a large scene that you kind of have gravitated towards there? Tell me about how you are going about cultivating your music now.
I'm learning how. It's a networking thing, which I've never been good at. Like I've said, started at 15, sitting in my room playing guitar. That's what I've done. I've played shows. I've played in bands for years and years and years. But doing it myself and coming from this angle, instead of being like a rock guitar player, electric guitar player, being the singer-songwriter guy, I'm learning now. I think there is, definitely. Long story short, I definitely think there is a scene here, and I'm just now finding out about it. I'm actually hitting it pretty hard right now to try to get out there, play as many shows as I can, meet as many people as I can, and it's exciting, man. It's tough for a introvert, but I'm trying to make it happen.
Yeah. I understand that, man. And I think my wife is the same. My wife is she loves music. She lives music. She breathes music. But the networking side, the getting out there and just being in the face of everything is challenging at times, because it's kind of, not that it's contradictory, but they're not always the same type of vibe. You know what I mean? When you
No.
when you sing, you get to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? It is vulnerable. You know what I mean? You're sharing some
Very.
deep stuff.
Especially for me right now, that's the only angle I know how to write is stuff that's like deep, or I guess seriously like deep to me. That's the only way I know how to write songs right now. I can't, I'm not that great at like watching a movie or reading a book and writing a song about it yet. I want to get there for sure. A lot of stuff is what do they call it, first person. A lot of the stuff is about me at this point. Not all of it, obviously, but there's a lot of me that creeps in every time, pretty much.
That kind of leads into my next question: is what are some of the themes in your music? What do you like to write about?
Definitely my hometown situation growing up, my childhood. It was a little rough, from an American standpoint. I grew up down there was a lot of poverty and American poverty, but poverty, So I'd say the childhood issues, growing up without a mother, how it's affected me throughout my relationships. Well, I had a mother, but not hardcore in my life. It's affected all my relationships. So a lot of that creeps in. It's a lot about past relationships with people and leaving. There's a lot of leaving and a lot of stuff about leaving, a lot of stuff about learning. I'd say that's the main things at this point. Trying to get better as a human being and enjoy life. And
I love that, man.
slow down a little, maybe even and enjoy life. I would say that's the main lyrical content at this point. How terrible I've been
awesome,
and how
man.
I'm trying to get better.
I love. One of the things that I was talking to someone recently. I'm not a bad person, but I'm not a great person. I think that, I think like most of us, we all fall in that middle category. But the reality is that, especially after I became a dad, there's not a day goes by that I don't try to be better, you know?
Yeah.
And I just try, man. And I think that when people are able to put something like that, an emotion like that, a feeling like that into a song, man, that's the type of stuff that makes magic.
Yep. And mention the backsliding. I still backslide, but I'm still trying. It's
Right.
still a very good forward progress. I
Right.
like to think. I like to hope.
I believe it, man. Now tell me, what are some of your musical influences?
Definitely Steve, just because it's been so long, since I was a child. And later on, his son, Justin, was a huge help to me, growing up in the country and living in the city and for the most part, at this point at least, preferring to live in the city. That was he helped me a lot there to understand how to do this. And Jason Isbell, Tyler Childers, Sturgill, so some other Kentucky boys in there for sure. Those are huge influences now. But I still have a deep love for like John Frusciante, all those solo albums that John put out. I love that stuff. And music of my childhood, I still love Sublime. I think Brad Nowell was a great singer, producer, songwriter, all that stuff. I think he had a great voice. That was the stuff I played as a kid. I'd sit in my room and with no one else to play with, you'd sit in your room and you strum Sublime songs and try to sing your ass off.
Right.
Alone in your room.
I feel you, man. I remember that. I think I'm a little bit older than you because I love Sublime, but Sublime for me was high school. So I think I'm a tad bit older than you, but yeah, man, Sublime was awesome. And
it was.
Yeah, so many of their songs were just really fun and not always fun. Some of them were heavy, They approached a bunch of different topics, but yet the music had life. And I think that was something that was really special about Sublime.
I agree. Yeah, and they get a lot of flack. I see a lot of memes and I hear a lot of things and stuff, and I'm just like, you don't get it, man. You didn't really give it a chance. You heard I don't know, some white dude trying to play reggae or something, but I think it was way more than that.
Yeah.
I think it was way more than that.
To make music, to make any type of music, to make an album, to make stuff that's like your passion, to even get to that point where you now have a CD or an LP, whatever, you know what I mean, an EP, like the fact that you got to that point shows your passion, you know what I mean? And the hours and thousands of hours that were invested in whatever it is that you've put your energy into. Like, I think about the 10,000 hour rule, right? Now, this is my 60th podcast that I'm filming tonight. I think it's 60. It's around there, right? Now I'm going to have to release it as number 60. So you're going to jump the line if it's not 60. But around that, right? And so I was thinking there, like, I've set up my whole setup at least 60 times now, and that's just scratching the surface for like, and I feel so much more comfortable and in the flow. But like, think about that 10,000 hours that people put in to become like, to get true mastery. You have to love something so much that you're willing to invest this huge amount of your life force in it,
Yeah. For sure. I've given up everything for it, man. I've given up relationships, friends, family, home. I've given up everything for it, and I don't regret anything. The only thing I regret is waiting so long to take it as serious and like try to push for it myself. I've always, it's a learning process though. I spend a lot of time in bands playing, but doing it for myself is new, and I'm a little mad at myself for not, really putting the effort in I've put in the last couple of years toward just myself.
That's awesome.
Doing it.
It's awesome that you're putting it in now. There was you said something about there that you ever remember the movie Walk the Line? The Johnny Cash movie, right? I was just reading that script this week, and I was perusing this one scene, the scene where Sam Phillips, the record label executive, is sitting there talking Johnny Cash, and he's calling Johnny Cash out about not putting his heart and soul into it. And I love that thing because he's like, if you had that one song and you're lying in a ditch on the side of the road, you got hit by a truck. You know what I mean? You got one song to let God know, like, what your life was all about. Like, what would you sing? And it's such a powerful, like, line. And right there, it's like, what would you say? What would you put out there, man? Right?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, are you really asking me that?
Yeah, why not?
I would say more of the same of what I've been trying to do is like, just I tried to get better. I tried to get better in every aspect. I grew up in an area where like wasn't any opportunity. The education wasn't that great. I've tried to just educate myself. Like, look, I've tried to educate myself and become a better person throughout my life. Slowly, very slowly, but surely.
Yeah. That's huge, man. I think life is a lottery. Birth, being born, I see it. Like when I was, when I moved to Vietnam, I see it, Here we get to see such like a huge gap in wealth in one city. In the US we have huge gaps in wealth too. But here it's like, I remember seeing a guy driving a Lamborghini here and a woman holding her baby, begging for food over here. Like literally, about 6 feet apart. And what it made me realize is that like, none of us chose the family we were born in, the location we were born, the situation we were born in. You can't change any of that. All you can change is what you do with it. And and even the toughest situation, you can still try to make choices that make an influence.
That's right. Yeah. You got to educate yourself, the best you can. I mean, obviously, like you're saying, it's really tough for some people. And I look at, like, people where I grew up and I see how some of it's never changed. A lot of people are still in and out of jail. There's still a lot of drug use. And I understand that you just got to I took every little thing. I can say that I honestly just took every little thing, every little step that I could take to help get myself out of it. I took it, fortunately. And
awesome.
Some people don't have even the tiniest little step. I get that, but you just have to try. You have to try.
Yeah, man. I think it's you see, I understand. Like, I understand what you're talking about because I grew up in the South too. I was born in New England, but then we moved. I lived down in the mountains of North Carolina, and then over in Tennessee, and I lived right on the Tennessee-Kentucky border for a long time. And so I lived right up a place called Portland, Tennessee, right on the border with Kentucky. And so like, you're spot on, man. Like, you see, the drug use and some of the stuff that just goes on is really tough lately, and and yet you see also in that you see soul, you see, how do I explain it? I believe that there's a fire that flows through all of us. And that fire we can use for good or bad. You know what I mean? And, like, I went to listen to bluegrass when I was a kid. My dad would take us out to this place in Nashville. And we'd go there. And I was always overwhelmed by just how much light was coming through that music. It was heavy at times,
Yeah.
but it was fire. I felt like I felt like the
Mm-hmm.
room was on fire, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've never been able to explain that to anyone. Like how when I heard, the fiddle was going and the banjo was going and everything was going, I could feel like, that ring of fire. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just, you feel it,
Yep.
man. You feel it.
This just became, it's, like what was it? What was that movie? Old movie with the dueling banjo scene.
Oh yeah, yeah. Deliverance.
Deliverance, yeah, it just became such a joke, paddle faster, I hear banjo music and stuff. So that people don't, it's became such a joke that people don't realize that it's seriously soulful music.
Yeah.
And that music originated and came from people who had nothing else.
Yeah.
Nothing else,
And the beauty is I think that right now we are entering a time where digital media is allowing people to have a beautiful renaissance of different genres, of different styles. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Americana, of we see like all over the world, right? People look at one thing and say this has value, this doesn't. You know what I mean? And yet it's not necessarily true. The only thing that really has
No.
value is what you apply value to. You know what I mean? And like, can you see the inherent beauty in something? And to me, like,
Yeah.
if you can have an instrument that can sing, that's huge. And that movie Deliverance was a really messed up movie. But like, one thing that I always go back to, that banjo song was unreal. Like those dueling banjos were unreal. Like, I know it was like,
so great.
It's set up by someone who wanted it to feel weird or eerie, but like, man, it could have been this inspirational scene in a movie. And that's like a horrible judgment,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately. But I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Everybody puts that, like you said, it's just, you don't listen for the value in it. It's the initial turn off of whatever reason that you put it to something else. But, people
Let me ask you
have
this.
experiences and they stick with them.
How do you think we can make change? How do you think we can start changing people's perspectives about things that need to be changed?
Oof, man.
Whether it be in music or in life.
It's
Or personalize it. How have you changed some of your perspectives?
you got to be open, man. You got to take the fear away from it. Take all the testosterone and fear, the trigger out of it, and sit back and relax. And like everyone's different. Everyone's got, like we were saying earlier, everyone's got a different situation. Everyone has a different upbringing. Everyone has different everything. You have to see where other people come from and realize that your way of living isn't necessarily, we don't want to all have to live like you. We all live like, we all had our own issues to deal with, and we just need to be open to each other.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. Like, I think, because right now the U.S. is caught in this big divide, right? Where this side is this looking at this side, and people are just like, One of the beautiful things for me is about living outside the U.S. is like, I see that, and I'm like, man, we're all brothers and sisters, and then here, like, there's a whole different set of things that people deal with, you know what I mean? And it's like, we see people as an other, but really we're all so similar, man. We want to be loved.
Yeah.
We want to experience happiness and joy.
Art, we want all of that stuff. It's not so much like,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we have an issue here in this country. I think it's just like the entertainment value of it all. We're all on a team, and you got to do whatever it takes to stick behind a team. My team is this, and I don't listen to anything I don't want to listen to anything you got to say.
Yeah.
There's definitely some of that going on
Right.
here.
Well, and I was trying to explain that to my wife, like how crazy that was, right? So if a person identifies as, it's not even politics. Like, I'm going to take a step way back from politics or race or anything like that. Let's just talk about a sports team. Like, so say I like this team, right? Well, then you automatically, like, there's this huge assumption that you like a certain color scheme. Like, oh, so you're a Pats fan, right? You're a Pats fan. Well, you're going to have to like blue and white, right? Or you're, I'm a huge Boston Celtics fan. So like people automatically assume you have to love green. You know what I mean? And so there's all these assumptions that kind of go hand in hand with once you identify with something. And it's not always accurate. You know what I mean? Whether that be, right?
Yeah.
And I think it gets even more hardcore when people go like, oh, I'm from a city, I'm from a location, like, oh, because I told you I'm from California, right? And immediately people are like, oh, he must be, or you tell someone you're from Kentucky, they automatically assume certain things. I get it here. I'm from the U.S. Oh, do you have guns? Do you have a big truck at home? I don't drive a truck.
Wow.
But like that's it, man.
Yeah.
What are some of the things, right? What are some of the things that you would love to try to change in the world if you could?
Wow. Try to change in the world if I could. I don't know, man. I feel like so basic, but I feel like it's the truth. I just think that the whole world could use it. Education over education becoming a bigger priority, and because I think that leads to more openness and everything. I know it's like kind of an obvious answer, but it's the truth. It's like I think the more educated and more open we are to everything, the better it would turn out, for sure.
Seems
like we've become more and more. We've always been kind of more about.
Yeah, right.
Very
it
true,
seems obvious,
right?
But like you're saying, it seems obvious, but I don't think people haven't figured it out yet. You know what I mean? And then education in the U.S. is extremely expensive. So
yes, it is.
That's a challenge, man. Well, that's an admirable goal. Now, if you had like Aladdin's lamp, you rub it. What would you wish for? For your own career, for life?
You mean for myself?
Yeah, something for you.
Oh, okay. Very selfishly.
Just for Adam.
Yeah, creativity all the time. No,
that's awesome.
Getting to write songs and play music all the time. No more, no going to work.
I understand that, man.
Yeah.
Now, that's awesome. What about if you could go back in time and give some advice to your younger self? What type of advice would you give yourself?
Wow. Wow. Advice to give to my younger self.
And this isn't changing anything. This is this is just going back and something that you're telling yourself to make some of the challenges you deal with later on easier.
Definitely to slow down and enjoy life more. I haven't. I started running from my hometown in my early 20s, and I've continued to run. I move around a lot, and I get some job, and I give it everything I have. I work all the time, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes 7 days a week. I was out in Austin that whole year. I worked 7 days a week, 2 jobs, and just try to just slow down. Definitely slow down and enjoy life more. I think about so many years I burnt up that no good memories from it all, or nor bad memories, just no memories at all. So slow the hell down.
Why do you think you work so hard?
Old school mentality, man. I grew up. My father, like I said, my father ran a business, and so every day after school, every weekend, every summer, everybody was looking forward to, summer vacations and stuff like that from school. Summer break or whatever. I was not, because I knew that was it being in a ditch with a shovel for me. I wasn't looking forward to that at all. I wanted to sit in the air conditioning, even though I was terrible in school and didn't do well. All the things I said earlier about education, I am not educated. I just just to throw it out there. But yeah.
That's huge, man. That's really an interesting point. I think that
Yeah.
I see it where, that's a heck of a point, because like we have kids here in Vietnam that the parents don't send them to school because they send them out to work, and you wonder, like, what is that child missing out on? What is the world missing out on? Because what if that child could be going to school and trained as the next Beethoven, or as trained as the next, great neurosurgeon or Nobel scientist? We all miss out.
Solving problems.
When any child doesn't reach, right?
Yeah. We all miss out,
man. Yeah. Now, do you have any creative, maybe films or other creative things that you've seen in your life that really inspires you?
Films? I don't think so on films.
Or paintings, or just anything creative that just really you've seen that just really.
Not really, Sean. It's all music, man.
I got a different question then. If you could pick a couple core memories from your life to make a song out of, tell me one or two core memories that you would pick to make a song from.
First and foremost, leaving my hometown. That's a big thing. I threw everything I had in an old '80s Chevy pickup truck. By everything, it was like one of those tote bins with some clothes in it and a couple of cheap guitars. I'd say that was the best. I'd say that was one of the biggest moments. And that time I spent in Austin. I think every time I made a move would be the core moments, because there's always like everything would be exciting for a couple, 2 or 3 months. Everything's new and exciting again. You're trying to figure out, am I going to be able to do it? Am I going to make it? How am I going to settle in? Where am I going to live? Where am I going to work? I'd say those moments, because then, you're actually living for a couple of months at a time.
Right. And there's power in that too, because like I remember. No, it's not. I remember before. I was 2008. I had been in LA, and 2012. I had been trying to get jobs everywhere, man, and I don't know what had happened at that time, but it was just really hard, and I couldn't find anything. And so I finally hit this one point where I was like, all right, man, if I don't get this next job that's coming, then I'm gonna move back to Vietnam. And it was the best thing that happened to me. And when I got here, I remember staring out of my friend's house, looking out over this river. And the smells were different, the sights were different, the sounds were different. And for that moment, and I'm not trying to sound like be overly superstitious or spiritual, but like I stood there on that balcony and I said a prayer of like, God, higher power, whatever you want to call it, I could use some help right now. You know, show me what you want to show me. Show me how I can make a difference, you know? Because I think that at that time, I don't know, whether you believe in a higher power or not, I think sometimes we got to hand things over to whatever we trust. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I was just watching a podcast yesterday.
Do tell.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was just watching a podcast yesterday.
No. We have there's about a 3-second delay we're hitting right now. So we are hitting this delay. I'm trying not to talk over you. So I'm like, okay, go ahead. You podcast yesterday, man.
Well, I don't really remember all that was said, but it was just interesting you brought that up because, you know, the stuff about the high power and stuff. I was watching an interesting podcast yesterday with Jason Isbell and Rainn Wilson. And Reza something, he's an author, and they were kind of hitting on that a little, and I was left like not knowing how I feel, you know, basically. So that's a tough subject for me. You know, I had a lot of anger toward religion when I left because I watched, like I said, I grew up in the Bible Belt. I watched how it, you know, how some people were paralyzed by the fear and stuff of it. I don't like that aspect of it at all. You know.
Not at
but
all,
yeah, I can't speak on that totally. Yeah,
not a problem. I think that more of what I'm talking about is that feeling of surrender. So I kind of like that letting go, and that moment of just like letting go to whether it's just life, you know, and that moment of like taking chances because. Doesn't have to be anything out there. It can be literally just letting go of control for a second. You know what I mean? And seeing where things end up. Because I think that's what I'm playing at more is that I was standing on that balcony going, all right, let's see where we go. I have no idea.
Because it's tough to do. It's really tough to do. I have to say that living in Brooklyn, I actually get to see more people do that than I've ever saw anywhere else, obviously. Because it's like people here, it's tough, you know, and a lot of people, like, they don't expect to make it, you know, or whatever here, be able to stay or whatever. So I see people just, like, letting go and surrendering to it, and it's awesome. It's great.
Can you tell me some more about that? Have any interesting stories about... Of your own example of when times when you kind of let go?
I'd say right now, man, I'm kind of doing that. Like I'd worked at this guitar shop in the city for several years in Manhattan, and I just took a leave of absence of that in October. Like I'm gonna focus on this 100%. You know. I luckily have I'm fortunate enough to have a really good teammate on my side, and just letting it go, man, and just seeing what happens. You know, it's awesome. I don't remember ever not having a job, and that's where I'm at right now.
What would your dream be to do with your music? What would your dream be? What type of music would you want to make? Where do you want to go with this?
I would say, short term, I'd say I want to keep writing, and I want to go out and keep making records, and I want to see the world a little bit. I want to go play music all over the world for a while.
That's beautiful.
And then reassess in a couple years and see if because you know, I hear a lot of people who are like, I'm done with touring, I'm tired of it. So if I get burnt out, then obviously it'd be great to still be able to write songs and maybe for other people or whatever, but, you know, still be involved, maybe not the touring, but on the immediate thing is just what everybody, I think, or most people want when they get into music. I want to keep writing, keep making records, and definitely see the world a little, even see the country, start there, you know, playing music.
It's awesome, man. You know, one of the beautiful things about getting out and seeing people, there was a great movie called The Motorcycle Diaries. And it was a movie about like this guy's trip through South America on a motorcycle. And one of the things that I loved about that movie is like we see things in books. We see St. Louis Arches. You see the Sydney Opera House. You see, Mount Fuji. And you see it in these books. But when you get there and you're standing in front of it and you see the sun shining off of those buildings, when you see the sunset next to that arch, when you see, fireworks over, the Sydney Opera House, there's nothing like that. And that's not even to mention the people that you get to meet. And, all of these different, beautiful, unique souls. Because I believe, I think the world and life is magical. And that's what I tell people, like anyone who messages me back to come on my podcast, I think that's magic, man. And so I want to respect and honor that they want to talk to me, because that to me is magic.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember by far the coolest trip I've ever taken. I went to Rapa Nui, Easter Island.
Oh man, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I kind of hate that. I hate to call it that, Easter Island. It bugs the shit out of me. But yeah, and like you were saying, just watching the sunset. I think they're called Moais, the statues. Watching the sunset through them. I mean, I could do it every day. It was like you can't move. It's just like sitting there watching that. That was definitely the most magic I ever felt. Standing there on a island in the middle of the ocean, it was great, and the people were amazing. The people were so cool.
I think that so often one of the things that we have to do in life that is of utmost importance is to get back that wonder in life. I remember the first time I went to that bluegrass. I remember it clear as day. I remember standing there. I remember the room. I remember the smell. And I remember the sound of those fiddles and banjo. I remember it. And I remember staring up, and it was just like, I grew up conservative Christian background, and dancing was not good. I understand the Bible Belt like you're talking about, man. And there was just, there was no music. There was nothing like that. My school, we had no dances. We had banquets where we're going to go sit together, and there was never dancing. And I remember seeing these people standing there and dancing together, and the music was just making people move. And I was just like, what is this? Where were you keeping this? And why? Yeah. Why did you not share this? What is wrong with this? This is amazing. The wonder, right? Absolute wonder of a 6-year-old kid that's just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Oh, yeah. And as adults, we lose that too, man. We need to find that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, which probably causes a lot of the tension,
Right. Right. What is something that has made you feel really amazed recently? Something that you looked at and go, wow, that's just amazing.
Something made me feel really amazed recently. Huh. Sadly, I can't recall anything right off the top of my head, but I've been so absorbed the last few years with all the music stuff. It's been a few years since I've been amazed. That trip to Rapa Nui might be the last time, but that was enough to last for a while. So I'm due for something new.
That's awesome. Did you see the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty yet?
No, I haven't.
If you haven't, you gotta go rent that.
Okay.
It's of this guy, Walter Mitty, and it comes from a book. It was a book, but it was. I think it's one of my favorite movies by Ben Stiller, and it's it's an absolutely magical movie about this person finding wonder in life, in the world, and it's kind of like that. The idea of saying yes to adventure, saying yes to trying things. And I can just imagine. I picture like young you sitting there before you hopped in your truck to leave your hometown. I can picture that. It must have been a tough decision to get in the car and get into the truck. How did you feel once you were on the road?
Great. Once I was on the road, because like, again, you're in your early 20s, you're like, you're ready for, you're still ready for adventure and clueless to so many things. But it was just a very random thing. I was
Right.
it was a dark place down there where I was at in my life. It was really dark, and got the random invite, and that's how all my moves have happened. Random invites, and I just jumped on it. But I remember being in
That's
that,
awesome.
like I said, in that old pickup truck with the windows down, just everything in the back, like not knowing what's going to happen. That was definitely a great moment. Like that's like feeling like a real freedom.
You know what I've noticed with those moments too is that I remember when I was driving after I had left Vietnam in 2004. I stayed with my mom for a little bit in Texas, and then she went back to California, and I had bought a car out in Texas, and I was driving it back to California, and I didn't know where I was going. I knew that where my mom was at, my dad was driving with me, and we climbed out to this plateau in New Mexico, and we were at the top of this plateau driving through a thunderstorm, and the sky was lit up with electricity from side to side while it was this beautiful sunset. So it was a thunderstorm with a purple, red, gold sunset at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with my dad. And like, even thinking about that, man, that makes me start tearing up. Because like,
Yeah.
at that moment, I was present, fully present. And
Yeah.
I was just like, wow.
I can imagine out
That
there
wonder.
too. I mean, I can picture that being out in that area. Yeah, you need that, man. You need that. It's unfortunate that we all don't get to do that more, but we don't. But it is it is the greatest feeling, like that true freedom for a little bit, or truly being there. I'm trying to do that more
But I
in
want
life in
to
general.
circle
Just be
back
present.
on something
Okay.
that yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. No, I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
But like that's where like when I was listening to your music, when I listened to some of your music, I felt that though. I felt that feeling, that experience, that wonder in your music. And I haven't felt that with everyone I listen to, man, but I felt that in your music, that you're able to put that in. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the beauties of music is that we can share that wonder. We can share that emotional experience with people through music. And I felt that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you realize it, man, but you're pulling it off.
Thank you. Yeah, I want it to be good, man. I don't want it to just like put it out there because I've been doing it this long and I have to. I still want to try to give it everything, and just like I say with life, I still want to get better with writing music. Constantly want to get better,
Right. I have this one thing where my wife and I have a couple different goals. One of my goals is I'd love to turn this show into something big. I would love to be able to go to people's places and to show them. I'd love to visit people in their studios. I'd love to go to people doing stuff. I'd love to turn this show into like a big show where I can actually travel places and actually see people in their own environment, But I have no idea how to pull that off. But I do know that tonight I was able to get one video edited and up, and then I'm shooting with you right now. That's something I can do. That is something I can do right now. And sometimes I don't have to know all the steps, but I do know what I can do today that takes me a step closer to that. We sometimes just got to
and be willing to do the work. Yeah.
That's it. Be willing to do the
Yeah.
work and love it.
Be willing to do the work and yes, and love it. But be willing to do it and not give up. That's what I'm still telling myself every day at this point.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But I think that if you can find that magic in it, those moments, if you can find that thing that inspires you, that drives you, I think it makes it much easier to not give up. And if you have a purpose to your music, you know? And that was like comes back to that Johnny Cash line, you know? What was it? It was like one song that would let God know what you felt about your time on here on earth. One song that would sum you up. One song that people would remember you by. God, man,
Yeah.
I wish I had a song like that.
Right? I'm still trying to write that
That's
song.
a worthy goal,
Yeah.
right? And but I mean, you got to try. You got to try. Well, I hope that you pull it off, man. And I know that I believe in you, brother. So
Thank you,
I
brother.
hope that's worth something.
I appreciate it.
Hope-
It is.
No worries,
For
man.
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, and I likewise.
It's good times. You are always welcome back if you ever want to come on and talk about something you're working on. That's awesome. Now, let me ask that one real quick though. Do you have any projects that you are working on right now?
Well, I just released an album. I mean,
That's awesome.
like last Friday or something. But constantly writing, and I'm actually headed back into the studio with Chance McCoy, who did the last album. I'm headed back to his place in a month to do another one.
That's awesome.
I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, man, I'm sending you all. I'm pulling for you, sending you some good luck. Hopefully, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
No worries, man. Well, if you want to plug any songs, where can people find you? What's the name of your album?
My new album is called Hunter Springs Road. It's on all the platforms. What are they? Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube under my name, Sam Phelps, SAMPHELPS. My Instagram is Sam Phelps Music. All the social media outlets just under my name. Yeah, you can find me there. Appreciate any support for sure. I'm trying.
Awesome. Hopefully we'll send some people your way, man.